What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We're back. I believe this is episode 65. No cameraman today, as you guys are well aware. Working on it. We're going to try to bust out a couple episodes this week because Joe's going back to Fresno State. What's up, Joe?
I guess we're making that announcement right now. I didn't. Glad to be back. A lot of things happened over the last couple of weeks. Before we even get into that, I kind of want to talk about what's happened with Belichick and Saban.
Okay, first of all, before we get into that, you know what? Who was the other? Oh, yeah, Pete Carroll. You know what somebody made a joke about? What I thought it was true for a second.
What?
Belichick, Saban, Pete Carroll were making a podcast. How fucking crazy would that be?
Too big of egos.
I know, but how crazy would that be? Would you watch it?
How interesting can Belichick be for an hour, though? I mean, what can Belichick really talk about other than
Saban,
football?
It's like, yeah, I get it. But, dude, just the thought of something like that.
I saw something where they were talking about Lee Corso on College Game Day. Like, once he retires, Saban replaces him on College Game Day with Herbstreit, McAfee, and all them.
I could see that, but I could see that, but I could also see Saban not give a damn to do anything because he owns a car empire, like an automobile empire.
Yeah, but that's like he's doing side quests at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him do. You said College Game Day.
College Game Day.
I mean,
remember, Lee Corso, the guy who puts the mascot stuff over his head?
Well, Saban won't do that.
No.
Like how Pat McAfee does College Game Day now.
Yes. But like the old guy, like the guy who's like 85.
Yeah, I could see him do
Saban.
it. I just don't know if he'll want to travel like that a lot. I don't know.
But I honestly, I don't really even know like Pete Carroll's personality that well. Like, I don't think he would be that good. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's got this
Pete's
chewing
a
the
guy.
gum
You're
stuff.
telling me you would have a drink with Pete?
I think I would have a drink with Belichick. Like, I feel like Belichick's a closeted drinker.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think he's a guy who's having a batch bourbon every night, breaking down film.
Oh, yeah. He's sitting in front of his TV. He's got his remote, got his whiskey right here. Rewind.
But, like, if you're a guy like Belichick, because, okay, first off, Belichick's not retiring. He's still trying to be a coach.
Yeah. Wait, let's just say what you had said earlier. What would be the most ideal situation where Belichick goes, what we said earlier.
Okay, so this is my scenario, and this goes out. You know who you are, Eagle fans. Really high in Nick Sirianni, the start of the year, 10-1, great story. Went to the Super Bowl last year. Oh, my God, he's the boy wonder. The Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl this year. This is going to be the year Jalen Hurts does it. Well, now they're 1-5 in the last 6 games. They fell out of they lost the conference. They lost their division to the Cowboys, and now they're going against the Bucs. They'll probably beat them. They should beat them. But if they lose that game tomorrow, let's just say Nick Sirianni gets fired. Belichick fills that role a week later. Probably the next day.
The
next day.
That would be all time. All time. The city of Philadelphia would lose their mind.
It would not only be like I feel like Jason Kelce would have to stay another year just because it's Belichick.
Oh, I think he's already going to stay another year.
I thought he said he was going to retire. Like they're on the last year.
I saw Travis saying he was thinking about maybe retiring.
I think if they win the Super Bowl,
he'll retire.
I think he'll go out into the sunset for sure.
Maybe.
But dude, you never know with the Chiefs though, because the Chiefs are like, I mean, they get criticized all year, but then you get into January and February, and I saw I know we're going all over the place right now, but Kurt Warner, quarterback for old Rams, Arizona Cardinals coach or quarterback, he was talking about how games aren't played at an equal playing it's not fair. Like there's cold weather teams and there's dome teams.
Well, yeah.
And so you're playing in September, you're playing in October where the weather's still kind of cool. Like it's maybe 50s, 40s. It doesn't get that cold yet. Well, you watched that Dolphins game last night when they played the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and it's -5 degrees with a wind chill of -30. It's like, how can the Dolphins even prepare for that type of game?
Well, I guess they do have an indoors where they have a thing where they're able to practice and make it really cold in there, but you're not making it naked. You could see everybody's breath. Every breath everybody took, you could see it like crazy. It looked like they were vaping.
Yeah.
And I saw a stat that said the Dolphins hadn't won a game in under, I think it was 30 degrees or 40 degrees since 2016.
No, yeah. Well, first off, they can't beat any good teams either. That's a whole other thing to talk about. But even with the Patriots dynasty, they would always every time they would play Peyton Manning and the Colts in the playoffs, they would pray to God that it was a cold weather game where it was snowing and it was out of Peyton's elements where he didn't feel comfortable. Because I think the last time Peyton Manning and Tom Brady played against each other was when the Broncos and the Patriots played in 2014, and it was 70 degrees in Arrowhead. Or no, not Arrowhead, but Mile High in Denver. And Peyton Manning beat him. So I mean, Kurt Warner does make a good point there where it's like these like cold weather games really do throw off like dome teams. Like that's why you see the Chiefs always winning. That's why you see the Patriots always winning. I mean, I'm not going to discredit what Pat Mahomes is doing. He's unbelievable. He's probably the top 3 ever. But
after watching the Chiefs last night beat the Dolphins the way they did, and that game could have been even way worse. They went like 1 for 4 in the first half in the red zone. They kicked all field goals basically.
Yeah.
That game could have been way worse than it was. After seeing the Chiefs last night and seeing them how they've been finishing the season out, it's so true that these great teams and great players just bring it up a whole nother level in the playoffs. Like,
I mean, did you see Rashid Rice last night?
Yeah, I mean, Pat Mahomes was just so into the game, dude. Just on fire, looking like vintage Pat. He's ready to win another one.
And guys, this is why hand size matters. Like when you're like measuring players coming into the draft, because when it's -5 outside and the ball feels like a rock, you're throwing a rock at this point. You got to have like big enough hands to have a good enough grip on the ball. That's why like
you're talking about for the quarterback or receiver?
Like when you're measuring a quarterback's hand size, like that's why it's so like it's so imperative for like a guy to have like 10-inch hands, right? We talk, Trump talking about big hands, whatever. It's a big deal when it comes to playing quarterback in the playoffs, especially in cold weather games. That's why Tua can't play in the cold.
Well, I never knew that was a big reason of it because I always see because in the combines they measure quarterbacks' hands and I always sometimes see people bitching about, this guy's hand is 9 2/4 or whatever.
It's a big deal.
And yeah, like I always thought it was the dumbest shit, but that makes sense.
Like you literally
I never thought of it like that.
I mean, from experience, I mean, I can't even put myself in that situation because I don't even know what it's like to play in -5. I freeze my balls off. I played in 25-degree weather in Logan, Utah, and Jackson. I couldn't throw the ball. Like it just, my hands are only probably like 9 inches, maybe 9 inches and 1/4. I can't grip the ball. Like it's literally so hard to like throw a football to cut through the wind. That's why like all those like AFC North teams like Big Ben successful. Like that's why Baker kind of struggled a little bit. That's why I think he's doing better in Tampa. That's why he did well in the Rams because like he's in a better environment for him to thrive and his talent to thrive. So I don't know, but I mean, again, let's just go back to Belichick going to the Eagles. I'm kind of hoping for a Baker Mayfield upset tomorrow, just to see. And I'm going to shout this person out. Not in a positive light, but Giancarlo Sacco, you know who you are. I am praying to God that Jalen Hurts plays horrible tomorrow and Nick Sirianni gets fired on Wednesday.
That's always a possibility, but after seeing the Chiefs last night, I think the Eagles are another team that will just bring it up a notch in the playoffs. You think the Eagles? I think they're going to make a statement tomorrow. They're going to maul the Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay and a team like Tampa Bay, a team like Steelers, they're just happy to be in the playoffs. They're happy to have a chance.
Oh, Baker's happy for his career to stay alive.
And dude, Baker's a solid quarterback.
He's just as good as Dak Prescott.
I think the Eagles are really going to make a stand tomorrow.
They should, right? You would imagine that the Eagles should.
Well, the game right now, I think it's 14-0 Packers. The Cowboys were favored by 7.5. They're losing 14-0, and it's not even halftime yet.
Guys, I'm going to admit when I'm wrong on things and when I make predictions, and we're going to make a lot of predictions on this show. I said earlier in the year when I think the Green Bay Packers were 4-6, and I said Jordan Love's a bust. God, I got egg on my face right now. I am an idiot. I mean, he looks unbelievable.
I can say the same thing because before the season even started, I thought Jordan Love was going to be – I thought the Packers would be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah,
I didn't think Jordan Love would be able to be an NFL quarterback, and he's stepping up.
Dude, I mean, going 10-7, second in the league, and passing touchdowns, like stud.
Unbelievable. Bakersfield guy, unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's cool to see. I'm wrong about that, too. I thought he was going to be terrible.
But you know what? Let's not give – Love and Matt LaFleur their flowers just yet because if they win tonight or if they win today, it's all on the Cowboys. Like it is like the way the playoffs are set up right now for the Dallas Cowboys, they should be in the Super Bowl. Like this is their year to win. Like they're better than the Eagles. They had a better record than the Eagles. They're going to have home field advantage. All they would have to do is beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game.
That's the thing because the Niners it's also their season to lose too.
But then if I'm thinking this and they can't even get out of the wild card round against a young Packers team, first off, I know Colin Cowherd was talking about Mike McCarthy being the same as John Harbaugh and why should Mike McCarthy get fired? They have the same record over the last 10 years of their coaching careers. But it's the Dallas Cowboys.
You don't think Belichick would go there if they fired McCarthy after today and they lose? You think Belichick goes to Dallas? I don't know.
Oh my God. Well, honestly, I haven't even thought about the Cowboys even losing. I didn't even think that was a possibility today of them losing. But yeah, I definitely could see that.
I honestly am not a big fan. I think Matt LaFleur is a way better coach than McCarthy.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
By far.
And I don't think McCarthy's that great of a coach. I think Belichick going to the Cowboys would be you could see that. Cowboys, America's team. Yeah, Jerry Jones sits him down. Belichick comes in.
Okay, I wonder. Okay, that's interesting. How do you think that conversation would go down with Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick in a room together talking about conditions?
Well, Belichick's a different cat.
I mean, how you can't talk to anybody like one of a kind.
He's the one coach in the league, probably next to Andy Reid also. But even Belichick is a notch above that, where there's a mutual respect between the owner and Belichick. Like,
yeah,
when you're bringing a guy like Belichick in, it's you're getting the best of the best.
And honestly, if you want to look into the future, that would probably be better for the Eagles if he ended up going to the Cowboys. Because how long is Bill going to be in the game for? Like, what? How old's the guy? 75?
I don't know if he goes to the Cowboys.
He's pretty old
next year.
But if the Eagles lose, and this probably will help the Eagles, Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans, dude, he's a stud. The Patriots should have signed him. I kind of don't get the Gerard Mayo hiring. I think it's all right. Maybe like he's in the system. He's coached under Belichick. He's played under Belichick. But so is Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is a top 5 coach in the league.
Why did he get fired?
Because they haven't had any last 2 years in Tennessee.
What do you think of Dan Campbell?
I think it's a good story, but I think the Rams are going to beat him.
Yeah, McVay's a way better coach than him.
Stafford's a better quarterback than Goff. That's the reason why they traded.
That's true, but Goff he's always played very solid.
But there's a reason why you trade Goff for Stafford, right? Stafford got him over the hump
but
for the Super Bowl.
You can't not say that it also worked out for both teams. Obviously, it worked better in the favor for the Rams. They got a Super Bowl, but the Lions are playing good football. They're playing great football.
I mean, that's what I like to call reciprocity right there. Both sides working, like both benefiting from a trade, right? And that's nice to see.
Yeah, that
makes
usually
me smile.
never happens. You made a good trade when both teams feel like they got screwed in it. Like, that's a good trade. But but it worked out for both of them.
But I'm rooting for, I would like to see Stafford beat Detroit. Just McVay. It's just like when it comes to NFL playoffs, and again, I'll mention Colin Cowherd because I think he's one of the best broadcasters in sports media. He always compares quarterbacks, and quarterbacks and coaches are the most pivotal, criteria when you want to measure a team in the playoffs. And at the end of the day, I'm taking Matt Stafford over Jared Goff, and then I'm also taking McVay over Dan Campbell. I mean, you've seen instances all throughout the year where Dan Campbell, I mean, you watch him against the Cowboys. I mean, I know they had that illegal substitution play that they got screwed in, but it's like, why are we doing dinky shit, late in the game? Like, let's just win. You got a better team than the Cowboys. Just run it downhill.
You're talking about the game a week or two ago when they were going for 2 and they got the penalty.
And they got screwed. They got screwed.
Oh, they got screwed bad, yeah.
But, I mean, there's just you lose to Green Bay. You're supposed to beat up on the Packers this year, and, you still lose to them.
It would be... Dude, LaFleur's a great coach.
But I think what McVay has done, I mean, Puka Nacua is a 4th-round pick, and their running back, who's had 12 touchdowns this year, 1,000 rushing yards, with a 5th-round pick. That's just finding value late in the draft. And how can you develop talent like that if you're not Sean McVay?
But more than anybody, guys who are getting drafted in the NFL, they're all dogs. Most of them are dogs, especially running backs. They can all run the ball.
But, that's the difference, though, for, teams to maintain success. There's a reason why the Steelers are always winning above 500 every year because they draft well. You're able to build a young group of players. But if you're also good, you're not getting the top 10 picks in the draft where, all those, mega Micah Parsons guys are, right? You have to find value where no one sees that value.
And the biggest thing about all that, too, is these 4th, 5th-round picks, they're saving so much. Just like Purdy.
Exactly.
With the Niners, the reason they're able to offer all these huge contracts right now is because they're not paying a quarterback.
I would love to see Brock Purdy win a Super Bowl, and that would be the Brady 6 documentary on roids. Mr. Irrelevant goes down and wins the Super Bowl this year. I mean, it's just unheard of. That's only NFL football.
Well, they're the favorites.
I
think them
the
and
Ravens.
the Ravens. But I mean, they're just damn near neck and neck. Like, it's the Niners' year to lose.
Honestly, though, if anyone who has the most pressure going into these playoffs, people are going to say Josh Allen because whatever, Josh Allen throws a lot of picks. But you know what? He wins playoff games. It's on Lamar Jackson this year. Like, he has to win multiple playoff wins this year. Like, he has to. Because he only has one playoff win. Like, him and Baker from the same draft class have the same amount of playoff wins.
Who are the Ravens going to be playing?
So I think it's going to be
the Texans.
So right now, Cowboys and Green Bay. Yeah, no, we're talking
the
about
Ravens,
AFC. We're talking about AFC.
Are they playing the Texans or are they?
Yeah, they're playing the Texans.
Yeah.
Yep.
Imagine the Texans beating the Ravens. Imagine the Texans winning the Super Bowl.
That's not going to happen.
Imagine that.
I mean, DeMeco Ryans rookie head coach, C.J. Stroud rookie quarterback.
That would be a story of all time right there.
I don't think it's possible. They don't have the guys. I think C.J. Stroud's a cool story. I think it's like I don't know. I don't see him beating the Ravens, but if the Ravens do lose, God damn it, that like, come on, Lamar. Like, Lamar, be the guy. Be the best guy in the league. You're going to win MVP for the second time.
What if the Texans had the Browns defense? If they had the number one defense in the league, you think they could do it?
I don't know. I think it comes down to quarterback, and I think C.J. Stroud is like, I think he's showing to be a top 10 quarterback in the league, but he's not better than Lamar.
Yeah.
And I think he's better than Brock Purdy at this point, but I think the Niners are an all-star team.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's insane. Like, Aaron Rodgers should have signed with the Niners.
The problem is if Aaron Rodgers signs with the Niners aren't able to get these huge contracts anymore.
You're probably not getting Chase Young.
They're saving all this money with that.
Yeah,
Dude,
no, for sure.
That's $50 million. That, like, for most starting quarterbacks, a good starting quarterback, $50 million that they're saving right now.
And that's the template to win in the NFL today is you draft a quarterback in his rookie contract where you're only paying him $4 to $5 million and under a year, and then you just like expend everywhere else and you max out everywhere else around your quarterback in the best situation possible. I mean, that's why Goff went to the Super Bowl in 2018. The second Goff's rookie contract expired, you have to sign him big, and it's like, oh fuck, now we can't sign anybody anymore. With Mahomes, he's just an anomaly. You can't compare Pat Mahomes with anybody because Pat Mahomes is just possibly better than Tom Brady when it's all said and done.
Well, that's why a lot of teams right now are like, who are quarterbacks who are on big contracts? Like the Giants signed Daniel Jones to a big contract. The Broncos signed Russell Wilson to a big contract. Like, a lot of these teams are into it with a lot of money right now.
Even Matt Stafford, I think he's making like $52 or $59 million this year.
Yeah, but they're in the playoffs. It's kind of working out for them.
But like, that's why McVay's so valuable, because you're finding Puka Nacua in the 4th round. You're finding that Williams guy in the 5th round.
Comes right back to that. You're right.
But anyways, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But you know what? Honestly, I would like to see the Cowboys disband as a franchise if you lose today, though. Because, God damn it, that's going to be so disappointing.
What do you mean disband as a franchise when you say that?
Like, move out of Texas or just stop. Jerry Jones, sell the team. Jesus Christ, dude. They're the most valued team in sports worldwide. They're the most valued team in sports. And they haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. They haven't been to a Super Bowl in 30 years. How the hell does that happen?
That's why I think if they lose today, I think even if they win today and lose the next game, I could see them still fire McCarthy and get... Dude, if
they lose to the Niners, you can't fire him.
Jerry Jones's play could be to get... He might already be in talks with Belichick.
I hope he is.
It's very possible.
I hope he is.
Knowing a guy like Jerry Jones, it is very possible they've already sat down together. He's basically said, if we don't make it to the Super Bowl this year, you're coming. Like, I can see that.
If you lose to the Niners, that's the Super Bowl, I think. Or if you play the Ravens or the Niners, yeah. I think that's understandable. But if you lose to the Packers... it's just unquestionably, like, you have to get rid of the coach. Or you have to get rid of Prescott. That's another one, too. You might have to get rid of Prescott.
How much is he getting paid?
He's probably getting paid over $40 million.
Well, yeah, probably closer to 50.
Because he's definitely making like $40 million up plus. I mean, all those guys are. I think even Jalen Hurts is making like $38 million now. But
it's, playoff football is just different, man. Like, you see all the weather that's in the... Like, we were talking about the weather earlier. You see the Bill Stadium right now? Have you seen a picture of that?
You want to get into some conspiracy here?
What?
Why do you think they moved the game? It was supposed to be played Sunday. What is the date today? January 14th, Sunday.
Are we trying to talk about, like, Vegas having a hand in that or what?
Or just the NFL losing money on the game, or Vegas is involved. Maybe
Well,
they're all working together.
Something that I saw was that BetMGM, FanDuel, DraftKings, all the big sports books, because everybody locked in the under on that game, 34.5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the game gets moved, and all the sports books say we're not voiding those bets. Those bets are going to stay placed. And now the over-under is like 38.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
I mean, that's some tomfoolery.
But
that's
I
some
can
tomfoolery.
I could see the Steelers not even score a touchdown in this game. I can very well see that.
I mean, dude, I'm praying. Does anyone remember what happened to Kenny Pickett? Like, did Kenny Pickett just get a concussion and just kind of milled it in for the year?
I don't know, but Mason Rudolph won't be able to.
No, it's a joke, and they don't even have J.J. Watt or
TJ.
whatever the other Watt guy
TJ.
going to the game.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's segue to, as we mentioned, Aaron Rodgers. I think Pat McAfee's show is at a crossroads.
Why?
Because he's deciding. Because I think why do you like the Pat McAfee show? Do you even watch Pat McAfee? Why do you like Pat McAfee? Do you have any opinion on him?
I mean, I think he's a great talker. He's very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's on College Game Day. That's why he was doing the national championship. He's very entertaining.
Boisterous.
Yeah, he
speaks his mind.
He does. He's always had a good show, but now that he's with ESPN, it's all became corporate now.
Yeah.
And we saw what he said about after Aaron Rodgers. That's what I want. Like, me and you talked about this. Like, you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to come back on? I don't think.
I think
Aaron
he should
is
come back
ever
on.
going to come back.
Like, you don't think next playoff or next NFL season when that comes around, he's done with the Pat McAfee show?
I think for sure. I wish. Hopefully, we can make a clip to put what McAfee was saying about it, because it seemed like he was basically saying like he's glad that this is all over. He's glad he doesn't have Aaron Rodgers on the show anymore, basically. And he was like basically saying like, I'm glad to get this all over with and done, and I'm just trying to move on now. Like, I think somebody, because Disney owns ESPN, Disney owns ABC, Kimmel's on ABC. He got calls from higher-ups, the corporate people, and they basically told him what to say.
I mean, they even talked about that one guy high up in ESPN who's trying to get him off the show, or they're trying to get the show off the air.
Yeah, what was his name? I forget his name.
I can't think. It's just some white name. Who cares? Whatever.
But
that guy doesn't deserve our
I heard his name the other day.
But no, he's trying to tiptoe a line because like he's still Pat McAfee, but like being Pat McAfee is going to create controversy with like mainstream media. And, like, with eyeballs continue, like, because they say the F word on ESPN now. Like, how funny is that? Like, you know, like, McAfee's like, oh, we don't care. You know, like, we're normal people. Normal people speak this way. Like, we're not going to talk like we're talking heads.
Yeah.
That's what's made him so entertaining. And I love the McAfee show. But it's like, you can only take that so far before you start butting heads with people. I just can't.
I feel like every show's the same, basically.
I think that show is probably the exception.
Of McAfee?
I think McAfee is literally the only show like that on the air right now.
When I watch a McAfee show, it just seems like every single show is the same show, which is, I get that.
It's a sports talking
I get
show.
that. Yeah, I get that. But basically, if I were to watch 1 week and then watch 2 weeks later, I would think I'm watching the same episode if I didn't know any better.
Well, true, because they have schedules. Like Rodgers comes Tuesday, J.J. Watt comes Wednesday, Saban, I think, was coming on Thursdays, like during the college football season. But can you imagine like Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith on First Take talking about the vaccine? Or having like some sports athlete come on and talk about the vaccine for 30 minutes on a sports talk show?
You know what I think is also how overreacted everything was on that situation, the Kimmel Aaron Rodgers situation, is because we saw what Aaron Rodgers said.
Mm-hmm.
And Kimmel came out like saying he's going to sue him, blah, 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 calling him a pedophile.
He still hasn't sued him.
Rodgers literally said his name one time and said nothing about him being a pedophile. He said the list is coming out and these guys like Kimmel should be worried because Kimmel a while ago was saying these guys are crazy. There's not going to be a list, blah, blah, blah. You're crazy, Aaron Rodgers. Nothing's going to happen. Calling Aaron Rodgers crazy about his vaccine takes, all this shit.
Yeah.
And now the list is coming out, and Aaron Rodgers once again is right that the list is coming out, and he's just telling him you guys should be careful now that the list is coming out, and just named it Jimmy Kimmel, and everybody took that and ran with him calling him a pedophile and all this shit, that's so far from the truth if anybody actually watches what he said.
Dude, it's almost like people like speculated that Rodgers was talking about Kimmel in that same light, like connecting him as a pedophile, and then they ran with that narrative. But then Aaron Rodgers comes back the following Tuesday and like kind of like clears everything up, but he still kind of doubles down on what his beliefs were.
Yeah.
And I mean, are we allowed to like share ideas on mainstream platforms, or are we only allowed to say things that the higher ups only allow you to say, right? Because that's the problem right now with Aaron Rodgers getting kicked off the show, is because he has an opinion that's kind of controversial, goes against Jimmy Kimmel, a big part of those networks, right? Jimmy Kimmel's almost like an untouchable. Like, you cannot talk bad about Jimmy Kimmel or you won't be allowed on the airways anymore, right? That's kind of weird.
I think it's so hard to say. The McAfee show now and a year or two ago when he wasn't on ESPN and Rodgers says that, he's still coming on the show every week. Yeah. There's no problem. There's nobody to tell McAfee not to have him. Mm-hmm. I do kind of see why he signed with ESPN, but he signed for less money. He was making more money with FanDuel doing his own show on YouTube.
Was he actually? I don't know the contract.
I think his contract now, he's making about $15 million a year or something like that.
Okay.
And with FanDuel, he's making closer to $20 million a year.
But you're getting more eyeballs watching you, right?
Probably,
he's on
more
game day
eyeballs.
now.
Yeah, him coming to ESPN gets him on game day, gets him into the national championship.
He's commentating the national. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a give and take thing, but
I think what's happening in the media space right now with like mainstream media and independent journalism and like kind of people like who do news reporting on YouTube, like what we're doing right now, like I think we're at like a crossroads right now where like the Pat McAfee show is like in that gray area where it's like kind of both sides. Like he's playing the mainstream, like I'm on ESPN, I'm on SportsCenter all the time. If you go on SportsCenter, there's always a Pat McAfee show on one of those channels.
Always. It's like the new sport. It's like the new Sports Center. Yeah.
It's the new Sports Center. He's in the national championship game. He's doing College Game Day. He's interviewing the college football coaches in the national championship game. But also, he's saying fuck. He's like he's like ranting and stuff. Like he's speaking his mind. You see him in Game Day. He's doing something that Herb Street in the last 25 years has never seen. They love him for that. And so like he's like in this gray area, and that's why I say he's in a crossroads, because eventually he's gonna have to pick where he goes. And it seems like from what you mentioned earlier that he's picking the mainstream side, and he probably will move off of Rodgers at some point. And I kind of find that discouraging because like, let's just say Aaron Rodgers, everything that he said is wrong, which probably is not true at all. Like he's like when he was talking about the vaccine and all that stuff, like he's allowed to have those opinions, right? There are statistics that support what he was saying. But if you're going to like kind of take a guy out of that because it was a controversial take, then what are we even doing anymore? Like what's the difference between like independent media, or what's the point of free speech? What's the point of having like an actual like network that isn't kind of funded by the government or controlled by the government if speech is controlled? What's the difference?
I want to touch on that real quick, like his vaccine thing and how the corporate is getting him off and all this shit.
Yeah.
I want to touch on just how hypocritical these people are, meaning like the left media and all these people. Mm-hmm. Because like for the vaccine, for example, they're making, if you don't get the vaccine, you're a terrible person. They made Rodgers seem he's crazy. Kimmel, for example,
you're a whack job.
You're a whack job. You shouldn't be allowed to go to hospitals and get treated. Blah blah blah. But what happens when these women want to get abortions? It's your body, your choice when they want to kill a child. But it's your body, your choice if you want to get a vaccine. But it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's just
exactly.
It's so hypocritical, and it's like a pick and choose thing, and that is what really pisses me off about that.
And no one's saying we're pro-life or pro-choice. Like we're just stating what's actually happening right now, right?
If you're gonna play the it's your body, your choice thing, then it's your body, your choice. It's your choice if you want the vaccine or not. But they make it seem like you're killing babies if you don't get the vaccine. You're killing people. You're putting people in danger.
Yeah, but that's the argument, though. It's like, okay, you're endangering others from getting the disease, but it's like the vaccine, the efficacy rate of the vaccine does not even like suggest that it's helping.
That's what
anybody.
I mean. Now we know after all these studies have came out that the vaccine doesn't actually protect you from getting the virus, doesn't actually protect you from transmitting the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all these people, especially Rodgers, he was right, and people were calling him a whack job. And it's
just
like the left media is so
they want to control it. They want to control the narrative, what you can and cannot say.
They're predatory was the word I'm trying to get.
But it's like, here's the thing though. It's like, this is the problem with like having like a free speech platform with like McAfee's trying to do, where he's like hearing Aaron Rodgers out. It's like, maybe Aaron Rodgers does say a couple of things wrong where like people do get confused with him calling Jimmy Kimmel a pedophile. And they're just going to run with that to use that as a reason to take him off the air because he's reckless. He's too volatile. We can't control what he's going to say. He might say something that's so like misinformed that it might endanger people. But it's like, we can't have a conversation about what we should do as individuals anymore, right? It's either you're pro-vaccine or you're a whack job. That's what it seems like from ESPN's point of view, Disney's point of view, ABC's point of view, all mainstream media's point of view. And so, I mean, it's kind of like, it's like, what would you do in that situation, right? If you're Pat McAfee, you're making so much money from ESPN, you're getting so many more eyeballs. Because here's the thing. I will say this too, because I think there's a lot of people that watch ESPN solely because of Pat McAfee, including myself. I don't watch First Take. Like, even Shannon Sharp, I don't watch Shannon Sharp on First Take anymore. I watch him on Club Shay Shay. I watch him on YouTube. Like, most people are watching that from independent outlets now.
I think,
and he's bringing people back to ESPN.
And I think Pat McAfee is the type of guy that if more situations arise like this and he keeps getting told what to do, he's going to finish out his contract with ESPN and go right back to being independent media.
But it's like, if they pay you too much money, it's like, how can
they're
you
not
say
paying?
no to
He
it?
can make more money. He can make more money. He already was making more money before, contract-wise. I mean, yeah, it's probably pretty close.
You're
to
probably
what he was
getting more
making before.
eyeballs still on ESPN.
Yeah, but Pat McAfee, I could see the type of guy to not want to be told all this different shit to do, because exactly the reason right now he's being told what to do. He's had Aaron Rodgers on his show for how long?
4 years.
Yes.
Yeah, forever.
And now it's basically like, you could say this right now, but he was hit, dude. What I got from what he said about the Rodgers thing was he is not having him back on. He didn't specifically
He did have him back
say
on that following Thursday, just to clear it up.
I think I'm talking about after that. He said something after that.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, like what he was saying, like how he's happy that all this is over now, it's behind him, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
He's smart enough not to specifically say we're not going to have Rodgers back on the show.
Yeah, because he knows how reactive people are.
Yes, but I think he knows they're not going to have Rodgers back on the show. And if situations keep happening like that, to where he's being told how to run his show, he's going to finish out his contract and go right back to where he was at. And he's fine being – unless you see McAfee a different way, I just see him like that. I see him as a guy who will do something like that. He doesn't want to be told what to do.
I see McAfee as – I think there's a reason why he's like – I think he's walking on a thin rope right now. And I think there's a reason why he's doing that, because he thinks he can play both sides. But if he's like valuing like the cost risk of like if he sides with Aaron Rodgers and really runs with that, he knows like in the future he'll probably lose a lot of money, because then people probably won't have him on, or they'll think like he's spreading misinformation, because that gets labeled on you, and that's so like it's like tar on feather. You can't get that off of you.
Another thing about these huge corporations is what they're so good at doing is almost making you forget what your true values are, kind of brainwashing you.
Mm-hmm.
And McAfee, it could be in 5 years, he's just a fall in line type of guy, and he doesn't even care to stand up for shit like this anymore. And he'll start forgetting year by year what his true values, what he used to stand for are, and just be a network guy for the rest of his life.
Because I mean, after
that's
a
very
while,
well, because that's what these corporations are so good at doing, changing people like that.
Yeah, they'll excoriate you, and I mean it's got to be like, honestly, from the point of view of Pat McAfee, it probably is really tiresome to deal with this on a week-to-week basis. Like having people on, you have to fight these battles outside every single day. You have to fight the comments. You have to fight the people, the higher ups that are telling you not to do that. And so you're constantly defying people.
That's exactly what I was getting from what he said in his speech that he gave after the Rodgers thing, when he was just saying he's happy to have all this behind him. He was talking about all the flack he was getting in comments and stuff, and I don't think he likes that shit at all.
No.
I mean, nobody does.
He likes to be liked.
Yeah.
That's Pat McAfee.
And he said so many times, he reiterated it so much, I'm happy to start having this behind us. We want to just move on from this, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see how it happens. But you know what? If they take Aaron Rodgers off of Pat McAfee, cool. I mean, the world's going to keep spinning, right? They'll find a new Aaron Rodgers. They'll find a new Pat McAfee. That's the whole point of news media.
All right, wait, before we dive into something else, this is what I wanted to start the show off with. I wanted to get into this real quick before we dive into something else.
Okay.
I want to just touch on how important, like, I've been starting to read again. In books.
That sounded so funny.
Books are, well, I've always read. You know me. I've always read. But, dude, these books that I'm starting to read now teach you so much more than you could ever learn in a classroom, more than you could ever learn. I mean, yeah, you can watch videos and stuff. You can listen to audiobooks. But just when you are reading a book and you're able to highlight stuff that's important, and then you read the book again and you kind of get back in your mindset the first time you read it. Because I'm reading books now for the second, third time, and then like stuff I had highlighted before. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm getting back into my mindset of when I was doing that, why I highlighted that. And one book, for example, Patrick Bet-David has always, like, from time to time, he'll be on somebody else's podcast doing an interview, and they'll ask him about books to recommend. And the number one book he always recommends is this book called Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue Ocean Strategy, okay. And it's basically about how to separate yourself in an industry, how to, like, if you're in an industry like basically Patrick Bet-David was in insurance industry. Yeah. And before he had read this book, he was thinking about getting into, like, underwriting loans, doing loans, adjusting for house stuff, all this different type of real estate shit. And then he read this book and realized we shouldn't be trying to branch out into all these different things. We should focus on one thing and really be the best at that one thing. And that's why he attributes that book to all of his success, of why he became so successful.
Is that the main idea in Blue Ocean Strategy, is focusing on a niche and running with it? Or hyper-focusing on it?
I took a screenshot of something. Let me pull this up real quick. So this is like, it's about, like, creating a value curve for your company. So there's 4 like actions, they say, and one of them is, like, to eliminate which factors that the industry has long competed on should be eliminated. Like, so if we're using insurance, for example, like, he basically sat himself down and went through all these 4 different things, thought of what he should eliminate, what he should reduce, like what factors should be reduced well below the industry standard. Like, basically, I'm not super knowledgeable or an expert on the insurance industry, so I wouldn't even know what to say would be something that you reduce. Yeah. And then there's something that you raise, like which factors should be raised well above the industry standards.
Can you use, like, an example of something you do know? Like, maybe, like, if we're just talking about, like, a sports team or something.
Well, here, I'll use this because in the book they talk about the Cirque du Soleil. You know Cirque du Soleil, like, it's they always are in Vegas. It's like a crazy circus show, but it's not like animals and shit. It's like those acrobats doing crazy things, jumping from these crazy things, doing crazy flips, blah, blah, blah. Basically, if we're going to say something they eliminated, which the circus industry has long competed on, is they took out, like, animal acts because it's so costly, it's so hard to train the animals, and it's terrible. Those, like, elephants and those bears.
Yeah, it's negative feedback to animal cruelty.
Yeah, exactly. So they eliminated, like, and you got to think of this, Ringling Brothers, who has always been one of the biggest circus industries or one of the biggest circus people in the world, has been declining for so long, and they've been around for decades and decades. Yeah. Cirque du Soleil was around for 5 years and became the biggest circus in the world, and they basically ran off of, like, Blue Ocean Strategy. And
so, like, how do you figure out what to get rid of?
You kind of just got to sit down and realize what isn't working. Why has the circus industry been in decline? That's probably what they did. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people much smarter than me that planned all this shit out. Sure. And they probably thought of
maybe not smarter, but have done the homework.
Why has our industry been in decline for so long? How can we become the best in the shortest amount of time? Blah, blah, blah. And the last thing is, like, create which factors should be created that the industry has never offered. And that book, I haven't got all the way through it yet.
Blue Ocean Strategy.
I can see why Patrick Bet-David said it's one of the most important books that he's ever read, and I can it's so I can just see how important it is, because people always in their lives are trying to do so many different things. It even goes to your life, not even just in business. People are always trying to focus on so many different things. But if you just focus on one or two things and try to be the best at those one or two things, you can't be the best at 10 things.
Okay,
you know that.
Yeah.
You can't be an expert at 25 different things.
So let me get this straight. Let's just put in my own words here, so I'm trying to understand. If you're looking at something to like, how can I improve my life, instead of like looking at like 10 different issues or something that you need to improve on, you should only really focus on one thing at a time.
And just become the best at that one thing.
Yeah, become the best thing. Yeah, become the best at that one thing. Improve it. Make it a weakness and make it a strength, and you'll be better as a whole.
And the reason the book is called Blue Ocean Strategy is because think of a blue ocean and then I think of a red ocean. And their analogy for a red ocean is like there's a bunch of sharks in a red ocean. They're all biting each other. There's way too much competition. It's just bloody waters. There's not enough. Everybody's just fighting with each other. And then you have to go find a blue ocean somewhere where you can create a niche even in the same industry. Say that red ocean, you're still a shark, but you go to a blue ocean and you create your own niche, and you become. It's a very good book. It's a very good book.
It's kind of like the McAfee show in a way too, because like the way he's doing his show is so like he's saying the F word on ESPN Airways, and no one ever talks like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's read that book. I mean, I don't know if McAfee's a big reader.
I think McAfee's just a guy who's writing off his personality, and people, it's contagious to be.
I don't even think a lot of people know McAfee was a punter in the NFL, a great punter.
He was on the All-Decade team in 2010s. Like, he was a stud.
He was a great dude. In Madden, like, he was always the number one, like, 99 overall punter.
I'll never forget. I mean, he got his how he got famous as like a sports media personality was the Polamalu story with Troy Polamalu. Have you ever heard that before?
Didn't he? What did he do?
It was something about like they were doing. It was the Colts versus the Steelers, and he was like they're doing a field goal unit.
I've heard
he was
this,
the holder,
yes.
And like he was supposed to do.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was supposed to run it in, but like if the C gap is like if no one's in the C gap, you're gonna walk into the end zone. So he's about to go. And all of a sudden, Polamalu starts roaming around like Troy Polamalu,
Troy Polamalu.
He went to USC, stud, Hall of Famer. He's in the C gap because he knows exactly what the Colts are looking at. And McAfee, just the way he tells the story, he's like, "We got to call it off, field goal. Let's just kick the field goal. Polamalu's in the C gap."
Yeah.
But just the way he described the story,
I heard that.
Funny.
And there's videos of McAfee just laying people out. On the side. Like you've seen that video of him just laying someone out. Yeah.
No, I mean that's what made him so popular, I think, because I think there's really you really need to you can't cling on to tradition so tightly, right? Like you got to be able to adapt to keep like moving forward as time goes by. And I think the way the McAfee shows ran, it's just a correlation of how people want to listen to their media today, especially in sports, right? Sports,
and you were talking about independent media earlier. I think the Valuetainment and Patrick Bet-David's independent media company that he's doing right now, I think they're one of the best at it. And then you've got they're having all different people, all over the spectrum. They'll sit down with somebody from any side of the left, right. They want us to have these dialogues with people from the left. Like just a couple days ago, they had that. Do you know that Bassem Youssef or something? The Palestinian guy.
He's like an Egyptian comedian or something.
Yeah, he's a comedian.
Super pro-Palestine.
Yeah, super pro-Palestine. And they had Patrick didn't even talk the whole time because you know that one guy on the show, Adam. He's a Jew.
He's a comedian too. Yeah.
Yeah. Him and the Bassem Youssef guy just went at it for 2 hours.
Totally just disagreeing.
Went at it the whole time, and then after they just shook hands. No problem. But that's what we need more of in our. We've talked about this so many times.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to sit down and be able to disagree and have these arguments, because that's what they ended the show with, because they were going at each other's throats, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how crazy Israel and Palestine topic is. It is.
Yeah,
it's as rough as it gets.
Probably the most heated debate you can get in today.
And they got deep into stuff that I never even had.
They're going back, the Belfort Declaration or something.
The Zionist movement. They're going into all this really intense stuff,
mm-hmm.
and they're going at each other's throats, and it's very tough topics to talk about. And after the show, they both were talking about how this is so important. People need to be able to sit down at the table, and it's not even just for the Palestine-Israel conflict. It's for our country too. We have such radical people from both sides of the aisle that need to just be able to sit down and talk things out and have these dialogues and good discussions, and that's the only way we'll be able to progress right now.
What's the name of that book again?
Blue Ocean Strategy.
So I think Blue Ocean Strategy, I think that's only a possibility in a capitalistic society, right? You're trying to find something that no one's hit gold on. No one's struck it.
Not even that, though. Not even just that. I mean, yes, it's an element of it. That is an element of it, but also an industry just like, imagine grape farming. We know a lot about grape farming. We think somebody has figured out everything in this industry, but there's always something that not everybody is doing, or not somebody's not doing to the best of that it could be done. Yeah. And those are the things that you need to find and make those the best.
Well, you got to be able to adapt to the landscape as well, because the landscape's constantly changing, right? You know, it could be legislation, it could be a drought, it could be whatever, right? Minimum wage going up, whatever. You got to be able to adapt to it, and you got to have the right strategy, the blue ocean strategy. You have to find something that no one else is doing and perfect it. Yep. But okay. But the sad thing is with ESPN is that, like, you could say, like, why doesn't McAfee have like an actual like scientist or like doctor to come on the show and like actually take the part of Aaron Rodgers? Well, here's one thing. One, no one's gonna care because it's not Aaron Rodgers, and here's the second thing. The only reason that Aaron Rodgers is able to do this is because he doesn't care. He doesn't have really a boss. Like, I mean, yes, he plays for the New York Jets right now, but the guy's made over $400 million in his career. Like, the guy's fine. Right, he's not working for ESPN. He just kind of comes into the Pat McAfee show, which he pays him too. I think he pays him like $1 million an episode. Like, it's something
not
bizarre.
$1 million.
It's something bizarre.
I bet
like, he makes a lot of money from it.
I bet you it's probably like 100 something. Dude, imagine getting 100,000 for zooming in for a couple minutes. Like, it's not $1 million.
No, but I'm serious. Like, we're probably wrong with the numbers, but you can look into it. But
I'll see if it's online.
But with Pat, yes, exactly. So Aaron Rodgers is a guy who's just so independently like rich. He doesn't have to care about what others say because he already has his money, so he can just speak his mind freely. That's like Rogan too. Like, there's this special human that can actually like point things out. And I'm not saying these guys are correct on every issue. I'm just saying they're able to stick their neck out there if they actually believe in something, and then you can actually have like a national like dialogue with like the real issues here, instead of just listening to the mainstream thought and going down a certain way without ever challenging those ideas. So, I mean, and it's tough. Like, only a guy like Aaron Rodgers can do that right now. But I think as the tides are changing, hopefully we get to the point where we do have bipartisan media where you're able to talk issues through.
And that's why I value Taman. I think they're going to be leading the helm.
They'll probably go on X. That's why X is going to be the new media outlet.
Well, did you see that Elon Musk just made a peer-to-peer pay platform on X, like basically a Venmo on X now?
Like, he's going to pay like.
Have you heard of WeChat in China?
WeChat?
It's like every single person in China has it, and on this one app you're able to do everything. You're able to Venmo people. It's like having an X or a Twitter on your phone, Facebook, blah blah blah. You're able to text people. Nobody uses text message on their phone. Everybody in China uses WeChat. Like, it is, you're able to shop for anything on it. It's like Amazon. It's all into one. Imagine Twitter, Instagram, Venmo, X, everything all into one.
What's the one app that you can text on?
It's WhatsApp.
Zuckerberg, yeah, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It's all the same. It's on one platform.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, Aaron Rodgers, it says over 5 years made $17 million on the McAfee show.
That's insane. So he just comes on there. He gets paid $17 million over 5 years just to speak his mind because
once
he can't
a week
do that
for 5 years. So let's say that's 250 weeks. Let's say that he's been on the show. Mm-hmm. Let's say he's been on the show for 250 weeks. He's made $17 million. That is
for an hour. An hour every week.
He's making a lot of money then.
He comes on for an hour every week to make $17 million on the side.
It's like $50,000 an episode.
That's chump
basically.
Change.
Yeah, he's making $50,000 to come zoom in. He doesn't even have to fly anywhere. He's just zooming in.
You know what? A lot of people don't like Aaron Rodgers because of the stuff he says, but damn it, I mean, he doesn't have to be right on everything. Kimmel's not right on everything. But why does Jimmy Kimmel get a platform where he can just speak his mind freely, he can condemn people, he can make fun of people, but the second anyone comes at him, he's threatening to sue them?
Because it's the narrative in this country now. If it was reversed, Kimmel would be the crazy one and Rodgers would be the correct one.
Exactly.
It's just the way media's ran right now. It's the way they have their hooks in everything. And when I say they, I mean the left. They are just.
I think it's both.
Well, if it was, why doesn't the right side of the aisle protect Rodgers on any of this?
Because I don't think Rodgers. No, because I don't think Rodgers associates with the right. Because I think people are afraid to associate with the right. Because this is what I think.
That's right.
Like I think. I think so we talk about like adapting and like changing as time goes. The landscape's always changing, so we got to be able to adapt. So like you think about Republican, you think as like conservatism, like you want to hold on to traditional values, or as a liberal, as someone who's a Democrat, is always thinking about, well, hey, it is what it is right now, but how can we improve it? How can we modify it for everyone to be happy in this one system? So they're always adapting.
But that's the thing. That is what liberals were 40 years ago. That's not what it is now.
Oh, no,
it's so much more radical than that now.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like...
Well, you can never give a party too much power.
Yeah, but it's almost like the Liberal Party 40, 50 years ago is like how the Republican Party is for the majority now.
Yeah.
And it's so much more radical nowadays, and that's goes back to why we need to be able to have dialogues like Bassem Youssef and Adam Sosnick did.
And then Value Taven the next week will have Ron DeSantis on. Like someone from the complete other side of the aisle who's pro-Israel.
Yeah, Patrick is
They're doing it right.
He's such a good talker and negotiator, and he loves like having dialogue. Like he loves guys that will kind of try to challenge his point of views. Mm-hmm. He loves because he's one of the smartest guys. Like he reminds me of my uncle a lot. Mm-hmm. And they know how to navigate through conversations like that, and kind of because a lot of those people are really hard-headed. You won't change their mind.
Yeah, I mean, how hard is it to change somebody's mind?
And the way Patrick asks questions and the way he brings things up, you could see like it working in their head. Like it's starting to kind of change. They're kind of thinking like, maybe I'm not right.
Like they're not partial on the matter. Like they're willing to get swayed into something else if it makes more sense. Because if you're trying to be logic driven,
but most of the time they're talking to dipshits who that can't change their mind, and they double down on their ideals. But then when you sit with a guy who's as smart as Patrick Bet-David, who asks the right questions in the right ways, these people kind of start opening up a little bit more.
Well, that's why I brought up capitalism, because I don't think anyone would have been willing to stick their neck out there if Joe Rogan doesn't get that contract with Spotify. We're like actually speaking your mind and not being afraid of like cancellation and cancel culture. And like, if you're able to actually speak your mind, be genuine, be open to issues, have different people on. And if that's seen as profitable, that's why I think all these people followed suit. That's why I think all these like independent journalism, all this different media outlets are now trying to kind of chase what Rogan got, right? Because Rogan was the first one that kind of opened it up, I think. Seriously, because I think Rogan, it took him so long to do it, but like, I mean, when was the Spotify deal? In 2020, 2019?
2020, I think.
Like, he was doing the podcast for like 7 years. But before that, everyone was like kind of scared to say anything. Like, don't talk about politics. Just kind of just agree. You don't want to get canceled. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to have people attack you. But like, there's a template now shown that if you're actually genuine, if you're knowledgeable, if you have the right people on, if you're open to ideas, people want to listen to that. People crave like actual conversations and not just like conversations that are predetermined, right? Like there's only like a select point of view that somebody like Jimmy Kimmel can have on his show. Like you'll never have a guy like John Voight. Like that's just a Republican actor, right? You can't have that guy come on and argue about the vaccine with Jimmy Kimmel, right? And I think that's why I think late night's dying too, because they're not adapting to the landscape. The landscape's changed because Rogan showed that it changed, right? But you look at Johnny Carson, you go back to Johnny Carson all the way back to the 80s, you look at all these old late night shows, they used to be like intellectual conversations. You used to have like thought about the Vietnam War, about race, about like gender, about just everything. Like you were able to have real conversations where you don't agree on everything, but that was the whole point.
And that's why those late night shows back then were the biggest shows in America. Mm-hmm. And now I think people are getting
there's less options back then, but
you're true. But it's still, if they were going today, people are just getting so sick of always hearing the same things. It's almost like nobody has their own thoughts.
You're controlled by money.
Yeah, and it's people are too scared to say what they really mean because of the of the pushback they can get now, and I think the American public is starting to kind of wake up to that and get kind of sick of it, and that's why shows like Rogan are so big.
Yeah, they're profitable.
Exactly.
Right, people are craving it.
That was
They're
a
finding
good
a
point that you made.
So let's use the blue ocean strategy for Jimmy Kimmel, because they're probably declining in views too. Fallon, all of them are all.
Oh, everything is every cable TV in general is declining in views.
Okay, but I think if Jimmy Kimmel literally was like, let's have Ron DeSantis on and let's have a real conversation. Look, I may not agree with anything that you say, but I'm not going to bastardize you because you think differently than me, right? This is a civil society, people. Like, you're not supposed to just condemn someone that you disagree with. Like, people are going to disagree on things, right? And they probably think, and I bet the rationale here is they think the American public's too stupid to decipher what's the correct information. But that's not your responsibility to choose what we're supposed to think. You're supposed to present an idea, talk about these ideas, and let the American public decide what they want to go with.
What do you think about Bill Maher?
I like Bill Maher.
Yeah, he's
like
kind
Bill
of a
Maher.
guy who is kind of getting away from those Jimmy Kimmel type deals.
But he's always been a Democrat, and he's still a Democrat.
And he's not a stupid Democrat. He's not. He has his own. He will go against the greater agenda Democrat thought process on. Like, he'll have his own thoughts on things that are away from what the general party thinks, and that's why I have respect for him. Like, I respect him way more than I respect somebody like Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, because, again, like, you could be the smartest guy in the room. You could be Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson's not right about everything, and he probably is smart enough to acknowledge that. So we shouldn't take it like it's freaking, like, scripture. We're supposed to challenge ideas, talk them through, and let the American people decide. That's how it's supposed to work.
The problem is nowadays people just get so offended when you challenge one of their ideas, and it's just there's so much offense nowadays.
Well, there's these hot topics.
Yeah, that you can't talk about.
Unmentionables.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Kimmel, for example.
Yeah.
We're just attacking Jimmy Kimmel. We don't want to get into the other things because that's a long and windy road we can go down. But there are certain issues in this country that you aren't allowed to talk about, which I don't think is the right course of action to really solve any real problems here, right? If you just kind of keep sweeping it under the rug, hey, you don't talk about that. Shut up. Let these people do what they want to do. I think you go down a line where eventually those people are wrong eventually.
And the problem is when you do talk about those topics with somebody who has a different thought on it than you do, and you challenge their thought, they get so offended, and it starts becoming like a battle with words, and it comes from being a good dialogue into like an argument, and you get away from that topic, and it's just I'm right, you're wrong type deal.
It's just so divisive.
And that's why that Bassem Youssef guy was kind of he's not the most intelligent guy on these things. Like, you can tell
he's a comedian.
Yeah, like, exactly, but he won't sit there and start bastardizing you for what you're saying.
I think they got a little heated, but
no, they did. Like,
they weren't enemies after the show.
He started kind of calling him a racist for a minute and started calling him mother. This, but
like, there's certain words that you can throw on somebody, and it's like, again, it's like tar on feather. You can't get it off of you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you get associated with Aaron Rodgers, you're a whack job. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is. They like label you, they excoriate you, and then next you know, you're labeled as the same thing.
Well, is that why you hate Rodgers?
Honestly,
is that why you hate Aaron Rodgers? Do you think it's like a tar on feather thing if you admit you like him?
I think Jimmy Kimmel is right about everything.
So do I.
I think Kimmel has got it right on the nose, and I don't think he's I think Jimmy Kimmel wakes up every morning and he's like, you know what? I'm going to tell the American public what I really think. I don't think he walks in and he reads a script of what he has to say or a certain premise of what he has to talk about at all. I don't think he has writers for him. I think he writes his own jokes. I think he comes up with his own storylines.
No, you're being sarcastic.
I'm being completely facetious.
I was
going to
say that is so.
I was playing your role. You just said I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers.
That was so sarcastic. All right, let's get on to something that you were going to talk about.
Okay, let me look at my notes here. Okay,
what were you going to bring?
I want to shout out Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb of Washington. I played with them at Fresno State.
I don't know who these people are. Hold on. Who were the people you just named?
Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb.
Who are they?
Okay, so Ryan Grubb was the OC at Washington.
Oh, yeah, and he was in Fresno State.
Yes, and Kalen DeBoer was the head coach of Washington. They just played a national championship game against Michigan that they lost. Okay.
But who was Kalen DeBoer? Was he at?
Kalen DeBoer was the head coach of Washington.
But was he at Fresno State, too?
Yeah, so when I was at Fresno State, Kalen DeBoer was the head coach, and Ryan Grubb.
Where was Tedford?
Tefford came later.
Oh, okay.
Like right when he went to Washington, Tefford came in. So Jeff Tefford. So Ryan Grubb was my quarterback coach, and he was the OC at Fresno State.
Okay.
And so I just got to see I just got to see what they were like, and it completely makes sense why they are the top of the line, one of the best coaches in college football, because I saw, especially Ryan Grubbs. Not a lot of people know who this guy is, and I think it's intentional on his part, but that guy worked his ass off. Like, that's a dude that would stay in the facility and call. I mean, anyone who's played college football or even knows a lick of college football, those guys are working on the clock year round. And this guy would stay and break down film till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and he'd be back in the facility at 4:30 every single day, 6 days a week.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I didn't know that, and it makes sense because at the start of the season, nobody would have expected Washington to even be in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and that coaching is such a big part, and the fact that you know how much work these guys put in, and it showed, like, you're not surprised that they made it to the national championship.
Not at all. I mean,
because you had firsthand experience with these guys.
When they went to Washington was 4-8, and it kind of seemed like, okay, like Lincoln Riley's going to USC, like USC's going to take over the Pac-12. Bullshit. Like, those guys came in immediately, and they really, like, elevated Washington to a level that they couldn't even get with, I think, with Peterson from Boise State, with Jake Browning back in 2016, whatever. But they went to the national championship game as Washington. Those guys did that. And, like, they started off at Sioux Falls. And I know everyone who's listening to this, look this up, because I don't even know where Sioux Falls is. I think it's in
Idaho.
Like, Michigan or something. Like,
oh, might be.
Yeah, like northeast or whatever. Yeah, north.
I think
northwest.
You're right,
That was like a NIAA school, and Kalen DeBoer went 70-3 at that school. His final year at Sioux Falls, they went 15-0 when they moved up to Division II. And then eventually he became an assistant coach at Fresno State, then went to Indiana, then went back to Fresno State as a head coach, and it just kind of all accelerated now. Like, all the work that they have done has finally come to fruition, and it's exponentially increasing.
So who's the head coach at Washington? DeBoer is?
Kalen DeBoer was the head coach at Washington.
This year?
This last year, yes.
Do you think he will make it to the NFL? Because just the way you just played out his path to where he is now, from being at a NAIA or whatever they're called.
In 2009.
Exactly, and then to getting to be the head coach at Fresno State, and then to where he is now going to not, like, it just seems like his path is he's either going to be cemented great college football head coach. Because how old is he?
He's probably late 40s.
So he's not
maybe
old
early
at all.
50s.
He's not old at all.
Yeah, he's got time.
So he could either be a great college football coach, like he could go coach at some huge SEC. I mean, Washington's as big as it gets right now. They're just playing the national championship.
I think he just elevated a big
exactly.
time.
It sounds like his path is he's very potentially could be in the NFL. Do you think that's possible?
I don't know. Like, you look at Saban, like, there's certain guys that just want to stay in the college game.
Well, why do you think Saban just got out?
I think
it's the NIL
I think
thing.
there's maybe something with his wife. Maybe he got too tired. I mean, he's 72. He's done it. He's won 7 national championships. It's like, how much more can you grind?
Well,
and maybe also, as like a guy who cares about Alabama football, maybe he believed that he couldn't put his best foot forward, and that would derail the program.
But I think that's a good point, but we all know why Saban left the NFL. He couldn't deal with the egos. He liked the kids, the not having money. But I think now the NIL thing and all these kids just wanting, it's all money thing.
Yeah.
I think that's another reason he just doesn't want to play that game right now. He's too old. He doesn't care to play that game. He never has cared to play that game.
I think there's just like there's coaching styles that fit better in college, and there's coaching styles that fit better in the NFL. Like, I don't think Belichick can lead a college football program.
I don't think he'd even want to.
He doesn't need to.
Yeah.
But what those guys, like, now being at Alabama, like, they just grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded, and just like it was so delayed. Like, all their hard work was so delayed, and you don't really notice it until 2024. You've been working your ass off for the last 20 years, and now you're finally getting recognition just this last year in the national championship game. And now it's all coming for fruition. And I guess if I had to leave on one note, I just, like, you think you're working hard. Like, you really think if you're working hard, there's always someone out there outworking you. And I will say right now, Ryan Grubb is one of those guys that, like, really stressed me out, because I always thought I worked my ass off
and you see
until I saw him at Fresno State, and it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level that you couldn't even imagine what people are doing.
That's a thing that I always think of, like, within my life. Sometimes when I think I'm working my ass off, I know it's not even 2% compared to what other people are doing. And I'm not saying 99% of the public are probably not doing more than me, but that 1% that is doing more than me is doing it 10x more than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that 1% is doing it to a whole nother level that you couldn't even fathom until you see it in person, like with the Ryan Grubb thing.
And even if you work your ass, like I think Mike Norvell, the head coach at Florida State, I heard him giving a speech to his guys after they lost in the bowl game against Georgia 63-3 when all those guys like kind of opted out to play. But he was talking about how hard work does not guarantee success, but it gives you the best chance for it. And like that's all you really have in this, like with your life, with your decisions, like nothing's guaranteed, right? Like DeBoer can go to Alabama and get fired in 2 years. But damn it, he had an opportunity to do it because he worked his ass off. And I don't think if he didn't work his ass off, he would have even never had the opportunity to be at Alabama. So shout out those guys. I think Alabama's getting a good coaching staff. I think Ryan Grubbs and them are going to really.
Wait, they're going to Alabama?
They're going to Alabama.
Oh, wait, whoa.
That was my whole point of this.
I thought you were just talking about them. So
Jesus.
No. I didn't get that because I didn't think you said that.
No, Kalen DeBoer is a new Alabama head coach.
Okay, because
Ryan Grubb's a new OC.
I haven't seen any of this. I saw the Dan Lanning thing. He said he's not going to go. I haven't seen anything else.
Kiffin said no. Sarkisian said no. Norvell said no.
This just happened. This must have just happened.
DeBoer happened like a day or two ago,
exactly.
And Grubbs is going to Alabama with DeBoer. And
That's
DeBoer's
awesome.
obviously going to make him the OC.
Okay, see, I didn't get any. I don't think you said that when we were just talking. Like you kind of.
No, I said it in the beginning.
Okay, maybe I didn't get it.
Shout
I
out
didn't pick that up. Okay,
DeBoer for going to Alabama.
I didn't put that together because I hadn't heard that in my own.
But yeah, but now they're at the height of college football. They are at the centered stage because of that.
Shout them out.
Really cool.
You saw first. You know, after seeing firsthand those guys work their ass off, you know that they can. They deserve it and they can do it. Damn it. They just went to the national championship with Washington.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I mean, that's
pretty cool. And if we're going to end on this too, also, I got to end on, guys, pick up a book. Pick up a good book and change your life because it really changed my life when I start reading books. The shit I've learned in just 2-3 books is more than almost a lifetime of things that you've learned.
And you know what? If you're not a brainiac either, do an audiobook. It's I don't know. Maybe you might not process it as well, but it's palatable.
You know I was going to do that, but then I saw something that Huberman said, and he said when you're reading like a book,
mm-hmm.
and especially a good book that's like really well written, you don't realize it, but in the back of your throat, you're speaking the words. You don't even realize it, but you're speaking the words as you're reading them, and you don't realize it, but in turn, it makes you a better speaker.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's pretty cool.
But not everyone's Cat Williams reading 3,000 books a year.
Cat Williams reads 3,000 books a year.
That's what he said.
That's
what he said on Club Che Che.
He's such
We'll leave out on that, and you know what? If you guys made it this far, we love you, but go fuck yourself.